All right. Hey, everybody. Buck Belue here, host of the Buck Belue Show on 680 The Fan. And after the show, a couple of times a week, we'll come in and do extra innings. We're calling it as, 1 hour is just not enough for a sports talk radio host. Need more time than that, right, to get it all out. So this is the plan. We'll do extra innings a couple of times a week and talk about some of the topics out there that would be looked upon as being quality content. And today, we're going to take a look at Coach Todd Monken, the Georgia offensive coordinator, and the latest on his interviewing in the National Football League. And coming up in just a moment, we'll talk about storyline number 3 with the Braves as they head to spring training. Storyline number 1, Vaughn Grissom replacing Dansby Swanson at shortstop. Storyline number 2, we'll have to do this maybe later this week. The competition for the 5th spot in the rotation with Mike Soroka and Ian Anderson. And I've targeted storyline number 3 being Kenley Jansen moving on as the Braves closer and Raisel Iglesias taking over as the new Braves closer. We'll take a look at what's going on there coming up here in just a moment. First, let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart's coaching staff. Todd Monken interviewed for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator's job and also has met with the Ravens about their offensive coordinator's job. And I know there are a lot of Bulldog fans out there wondering about this situation. I know because as I move around town and go to the coffee shop and hang out at Publix, picking up some groceries for the boys who are eating us out of house and home, by the way, I got Bulldog fans asking me all about it, so I thought we would go ahead and address some of the things I've learned here over the last 48 hours. Working my sources, I was able to learn that why this process for the Ravens seems to be dragging out. Monken has already interviewed once. I believe there's another interview already planned or already done. They don't really announce those things. But my reliable source is telling me that the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator's job, the leading candidate is not Todd Monken. It would be Eric Bieniemy, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator, who's tied up getting ready for the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday evening. And so I think this is the reason why the process is dragging out. They're waiting on Bieniemy to complete his season with the Chiefs to interview for this offensive coordinator's job in Baltimore. And the earliest that could happen would be on Monday, the day after the Super Bowl. As I understand it, you got Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, and John Harbaugh, the coach of the Ravens. And as my source is telling me, Harbaugh owes Andy Reid a favor. You see, Andy Reid gave John Harbaugh an opportunity to improve his stock as a head coaching candidate by giving him a promotion with the Philadelphia Eagles a few years back. Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator. Special teams coaches don't get a lot of consideration for NFL head coaching jobs, so Andy Reid promoted Harbaugh to the secondary coach. And because of that, Harbaugh's stock rose in the eyes of those interviewing for head coaches. And he was able to secure the Baltimore Ravens job. And he's done an awesome job since taking over. But because of that, you're going to see Harbaugh be loyal to Bieniemy, is what I see happening here in the days to come. That because of what Reid did for Harbaugh, he wants to return the favor and help Bieniemy out. See, Bieniemy, he's stuck in a spot where he's been interviewing a lot for these openings, NFL head coaching openings around the league over the last 4 or 5 years. He's been doing a lot of the interviewing, but nobody's hired him. Because you know the deal. They're saying, well, Andy Reid is doing all the work for the offensive coordinator there at Kansas City. It's Reid is the reason why Mahomes is having all this success. It's not Bieniemy. So think when you look at it that way, Eric has got to break away from Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, go somewhere else and improve his stock that way. So this looks like a good fit for Bieniemy. Success in Baltimore as an offensive coordinator away from the Chiefs and Reid and Mahomes would certainly elevate his status and possibly elevate him into one of these head coaching jobs in the league. Monken, with the Buccaneers and with the Ravens, with the job he's got at Georgia, I would think, making a move to the National Football League with these two organizations right now would be a bad move. It just doesn't look like a good fit. And I say that because both of these quarterback situations there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Lamar Jackson and whether he's going to stay in Baltimore, looking for that guaranteed contract. Maybe the Falcons be willing to make a deal with Baltimore and get him in here, or maybe move on somewhere else. But a lot of uncertainty in Baltimore. If you're going to be the offensive coordinator, who's going to be my quarterback? That's the first thing I'd want to know. And it's the same thing with the Buccaneers. Tom Brady's moved on. I mean, who's going to be the quarterback in Tampa? Is it going to be Kyle Trask? Who's it going to be? They're going to bring in somebody? They're going to draft somebody? I mean, a lot of uncertainty there in Tampa too. So, gosh, if I was Todd Monken, I would be a little uncomfortable with those two situations. I'm just going to predict that Monken will be back in 2023 as Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs offensive coordinator, trying to develop quickly the next quarterback. Who's going to replace Stetson Bennett? Todd Monken will be busy trying to get that figured out. Kirby's paying him well. I mean, he made close to $2.5 million as the coordinator this past season. I think the salary's $2.1. Got some bonuses because of winning the national championship for the second year in a row, which bumped his salary up to $2.5 million. That's good money. There are a lot of NFL coordinators not reaching that level of pay. So Kirby is taking care of him. And I do believe you might see Monken get another raise close to $2.5 million with the salary to help convince him to stay at Georgia. Now, if he moves on, Todd Monken takes one of these NFL jobs, and Georgia's in a great place. Kirby has got Mike Bobo already on the staff, the former Georgia quarterback who's already done a fine job as the offensive coordinator on Mark Richt's staff before moving on to become a head coach at Colorado State. And, I do believe that this is why Buster Faulkner moved on, knowing that if Monken left, that Bobo would step in, and so he didn't need to be sticking around. And that's why Buster took the Georgia Tech offensive coordinator's job. That's my theory on that. And, I never really understood why so many of the Georgia fans in this Bulldog Nation were so critical of Mike Bobo during his first tenure at Georgia as the offensive coordinator. 2012, 13, 14. I mean, the Bulldogs were featuring one of the best offenses in college football, directed by Mike Bobo. So I never really did understand the criticism that was associated with Mike as the coordinator job. Monken has already said a lot of the success they had on offense in 2022 was due to some of the ideas, things that Mike Bobo brought to the table. So, look, overall, Georgia and Kirby Smart, they're in a really good place right now as far as their coordinator job goes. I'm feeling good about it. Can you tell? I am. They're in a great spot, whether Todd stays or moves on. All right, let's talk a little Braves baseball, man. Storyline number 3 with the Braves as they get ready for spring training is Raisel Iglesias, who came in like gangbusters after the trade deadline last year. He was the closer for the Los Angeles Angels, and I believe he was 15 of 19 closing out games. And came over to the Braves and was one of the key setup men during the Braves' run to winning their 5th consecutive National League East title. And, boy, I just enjoyed watching him pitch. And with Kenley Jansen now moved on to the Boston Red Sox, makes sense to go ahead and believe that Iglesias will slide into the closer's role. And I think this is why Anthopoulos pulled him in last year. They knew Jansen would be gone at the end of the year, and Iglesias in 23 would slide in to be the Braves closer. He has got some nasty stuff, and I just loved watching him pitch. You just saw some of the highlights right there. His stuff, his repertoire is really amazing. And look, when you're the closer, you got to get right-handers out, and you've got to get left-handers out. So your stuff better be good enough to get both sides of the plate, get these hitters out. And as you watch him approach right-handers, you're going to see the four-seam fastball in the mid-90s, and then you're going to see that nasty, filthy slider that he's able to command low and away to the right-handed hitters. And that two-pitch combination is awesome. Now you see him going after the left-handed hitters, and he changes his repertoire up. He's still going with that four-seam fastball in the mid-90s, but you're going to see him mix in the changeup to the left-handers instead of going with the slider that is so effective against the right-handed hitters. So he's a lefty killer. Four-seam fastball, changeup to lefties, down in a way that changeup's diving low and away from those left-handed hitters, and then against the righties, you're seeing a heavy dose of the four-seam fastball and the slider that he's commanding low and away. When you hear the term excellent command, you know, what that means is that a pitcher can take whatever pitch he's throwing and be able to locate that pitch where he wants to locate it, around the edges of the strike zone, or maybe bury a pitch out of the strike zone. He's able to consistently locate his pitches. That's what command means in the baseball genre. And I tell you what, Iglesias can do it as well as any closer I've seen out there. So two-pitch combinations to the righties and the lefties. And you'll also see him mix in a sinker, really just sort of showing the batter that he's got more than just the two pitches he's throwing at him. Give him something else to think about there, but he's a two-pitch pitcher, whether there's a righty or a lefty up there. And he, in the last two seasons, has closed out 50 of 58 save opportunities. Now, I don't know about you, but I like that save percentage there. He is getting the job done and can't wait to see more of it in the upcoming season. He's a guy, too, that doesn't walk anybody. And if there's anything that drives me crazy, maybe it does you, too, is to bring in the closer and see him walk batters with the game on the line. You don't see Iglesias do that. 26 innings with the Braves last season. He had 30 strikeouts and 5 walks, just 5 walks. So he's a guy that comes after, he just comes after the hitters, whether they're righty or lefty, and more times than not puts them away. What happens, you know, what's plan B? Well, right now, that looks like A.J. Minter, who I would assume will slide into, as he was last year, one of the top setup men out of the Braves bullpen when the Braves have a lead, looking to close out a game. You're going to see Minter in there in the 7th and 8th inning, and then you'll see Iglesias come in and close the games out. So I think the Braves are really set up nicely there at the end of the bullpen as we look toward the season. So Vaughn Grissom, storyline number 1, can he replace Dansby at shortstop? Ron Washington certainly has liked what he's seen so far working with Vaughn during the offseason. Storyline number 2, you got Ian Anderson and Mike Soroka, 2 really good friends competing for that 5th starter spot in the rotation. Now, you know, whoever wins in spring training wins the job, may start the season with the big league club, but I think we're going to need both these guys if we're going to win the National League East for the 6th consecutive year. So whoever doesn't does not win the competition shouldn't be too upset. They know they're going to be utilized during the course of the year. And then you got Bryce Elder, too, the sort of in the mix. This Braves rotation's looking really, really deep and strong, and anxious to see that rotation get out and get the job done this season. So those are the three top storylines. We've got more, and you'll be hearing about it both on the Buck Belue Show and on Extra Innings that you're checking out here on the 680 The Fan YouTube channel. So thanks for hanging out. Looking forward to being with you more in the days to come, and we'll talk to you very soon.